Hello, hello, holy ones. Hello. Welcome to this space. Welcome to this space. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence in this space. So, this is a bonus class that we're going to embrace for the beautiful AQE Foundations course, and just going to allow some time to go a little bit deeper into some of these spaces. I do have a question or two that was sent in that kind of fit with the topics that I was wanting to discuss anyways, so we'll allow that as well. I don't know if you can hear the dogs in the background. My mic is supposed to cut them off, so you can let me know if you did you hear that? No? Oh, how wonderful. Their mother is just pulled in probably, but all right, let's see. Technology is so wonderful. Oh, good morning. Good morning. Namaste, beautiful Paula. Thank you. Namaste. All right, now we'll jump right into these spaces and topics, and maybe we'll have space for a little Q&A too. Who knows? All right. First off, I want to touch on the technologies a little bit more. So we understand we have the bar of light for the body being scan, and we understand we have the Acasma pyramid, quick clearing, the diamonds, the beautiful Acasma diamonds. And so I had one of you write in and ask if you have to, or if you can bring them in. And I did talk about this in class last week, but I want to make sure I allow space for it here, because it's really important understanding that even the question coming in from the student opened up this space for me to maybe convey it additionally and, in a new way, in a deeper way. But the biggest thing you're being asked to do with facilitating in a Acasma Quantum Energy session, the core main point, I guess we could say, of what we are as Acasma facilitators is the connection itself. All right? You're the bridge. You are the connective point for the client or the student if you become a teacher, or if you are, some of you here are already teachers as well, and you're revisiting to go deeper. Good for you. I love it. We're ever expanding. But the core of it all is the connection itself, and you are the bridge to the higher vibrational space of connection. You carry the keys, you carry the connection point in the understanding of the energy of a Acasma consciousness, which is the higher vibrational space of connection this all unfolds in. So the first and foremost space of understanding is facilitate the connection. That's why I say you cannot mess it up. You can't mess it up. I just need you to trust yourself and allow, right? And Kirsten had that wonderful point of expanding that space with some additional wording of allow. Can you allow the possibility, right? Can you allow the possibility that you are this bridge? And trust yourself enough to be the bridge that the energy is able to be connected into and held for your client. And then just allow the flow and allow the space. One of the biggest things I witnessed in my own experience of facilitating these sessions in the very beginning, when I really didn't even know what to call them all. They weren't called what they're called now, that's for sure, but we've come a long way. But one of the biggest things that I said every single session, I'd say it to myself as I would go into the space, whether it was a live Zoom call, because I was still offering them that way for people to, be able to feel maybe a little bit more receptive, because they weren't really ready for the distance and the remote fully yet. But every single time, whether it was Zoom or a C2C session, I would always say to myself first, stay present. Andrea, be present with this person. Nothing else is on the table right now. Nothing else is going on right now. Be present with this person and trust yourself. That's what I would tell myself. Allow the space. Don't get in my head about bullet points or structured checklists or this, that, and the other. Know that all of that is unfolding, period. That's a really big one. It's all unfolding, period. You're the bridge in which it's able to happen in a connective point of witness, because you see it, you feel it, you'll understand it, and that'll all open up for anybody who's like, well, I'm not there yet. It's all part of your space of the expansion as well. I see way more now. I understand way more now than I did when I first began doing these. All right. So be really present. And then remember, you can't mess it up. And when your mind wants to know if you're supposed to do a sign this way or that way, or if you're supposed to say this, that, or the other, just maybe back up just a teeny bit and say, I'm just going to allow the space. I'm just going to allow the space, and let yourself even learn what that feels like, allowing the space, right? Because here's what happened for me over and over and over. It never didn't happen, all right? And it's still happening today. I was always blown away. It was always better than I thought it would be. It was always more magnificent than I could have ever imagined. There is so much happening beyond what we know we're doing, or even what we think we're being. There is so much more going on. There are so many levels being facilitated and given and received and perceived and interpreted, and so many, it's just so vast. So when you get in, if the head comes in and the mind says, there's like really big clearings going on right now, really beautiful, this is wonderful, the heart centers are opening and the throat centers are opening, really beautiful. There's a really big, real deep clearing coming out of the heart. Ooh, yaro sokoane. When the mind comes in, and the mind may say, what really happened? You know, what are you going to tell this person? What did you do? You know, or is it real? Are you making it up? You know, all those kinds of thoughts that the mind can have when you do such incredibly big, beautiful work as energy work, right? When the mind comes in with those spaces of itself, there's again a lot going on. The opportunity for us to then register what alignment we are choosing, whether we're going to say yes to those thoughts and those spaces and allow them to back us up a bit, you know, and that's fine if you do, because all it's going to do is bring you right back down to that road again, and you're going to ask yourself it in a new way on another day. But if you're ready to not have that be the alignment anymore, and you're ready to say, you know what, I'm going to trust myself, I'm going to lean in, I'm going to allow this space, and I'm going to know that I did what I needed to do. I was the connection, I was the bridge, this energy flowed, and more than what I perceive as happening has happened, right? Way more, right? If you can allow that mindset some space, doesn't mean you have to anchor it completely, come from it totally. But if you can give it a little bit of space inside of your heart, you know, and your makeup, your energy, your consciousness, your being, it will thrive. It will thrive. And you will thrive, and your work will thrive, and this work will thrive, because it's all coming from and rooted in love. It's not coming from fear of judgment, fear of what ifs, fear of buts and maybes. It's coming from love, of getting out of our own way and allowing the space. All right. So the biggest thing you are doing is being the connection. Now you understand the keys. You understand that they represent specific reconnective points that the human needs and benefits from. And after one session, those turn into blessing spaces, right? The very first time you ever connect with the human, they're full-blown reconnections. And I'd say this with the most amount of love possible. It happened to me myself, so I apply this to me as well, not just everybody else but me. I apply this to me as well. But I thought I was pretty connected. when I began doing this work and the beings of light began working on me, I thought I was pretty connected. I thought I had learned so much and activated so much and anchored so much. And I had, and we all have, right, in various ways. But there's always the next level of all of us. In all of the various ways, the next level comes in. And so when we work with someone the first time, even if they are like, I've been a yogi for 20 years, a Reiki Master for 14, and a blah, 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 reconnect them. Reconnect them. This is a different space. It's a new level of understanding of grounding, of understanding of the energetic connection of the human being and the earth. Never take it for granted, in the sense of, oh, well, maybe this, because sometimes people can get in their heads and feel as if someone might be more advanced than them. And they're coming to you for a session, and maybe you saw their work online or something, and you think, oh, why are they coming to me? That's a person I might go to, or something like that. Remember that you are the connection of the expansion of them in the next space of them. So it's not our place to say where they are on and their journey and where they're going next. Just be the connection. Just be the bridge. Just be present with them and facilitate optimally. Meaning, get out of the way, trust yourself, and allow. And I say that with love. If that comes across with some kind of, crashness, I don't mean it that way. But so the biggest thing is hold the connection. Now, the next thing we'll go into is these technologies. I think I kind of answered it in saying the biggest thing is hold the connection. You don't need to get in your head about bringing in all these things, as far as I need to bring in the bar of light every single session. I need to bring in the pyramid to every single person. I need to bring in the diamonds. These are very, that's why presence is so important, because these are like more specialty tools, if you will. And I told you this, I believe, in the last class for last week, but we talk a lot now, so I'm not positive where I said it. But you are becoming the higher dimensional beings of light that you used to reach out to, and still in some ways we do still get a lot of assistance from, right? But it used to be like we understood there, or we held the understanding, not that it was correct, we held the understanding that they were much above us, right? And we were seeking their assistance, guidance, help, healing, and all of that. But now you have raised your understanding of yourself into an alignment of being more of a team. You're one on a team with many. When you hold an Acasma Quantum Energy session, you are one of a team of many. You're talking about your spiritual team that's outside of Acasma. You're talking about your team that is the Acasma team that you have, that's your own. It has a connective point for you, spaces of you in that team, lineages, ancestors. Then your client, their spiritual team, your client, their Acasma team. All right. You're talking about higher selves. You're talking about soul spaces. This is a big space, and it's glorious and magnificent. So I say all this so that you can, if anyone here is getting in their head about really the process of doing a session, the crossing of the T's and the dotting of the I's and the bullet points and structured this, that's, and the others, put that book down. Put that thought process down and allow yourself to pick up, if you will, the alignment of presence, trust, and flow. Now, what I'm teaching you backs you up in the sense of the energy of the consciousness, the energy of the information assists you in being that connective point. So yes, it matters to understand the root. It matters to understand the energy of the human body, the energy of the earth. It matters to understand consciousness and the quantum field, because all of these spaces of information that you learn in these courses, AQE 1, 2, and 3, we have it all together in a foundational combination with this group. All of these teachings are energy. They're information. So when you take that energy, that information, and you put it inside of your mind, you've allowed it inside your being, right? And you have an interpretation and perception point as well playing out that's going to basically kind of adjust and tweak that energy. Meaning, as you expand your understanding of yourself and the world around you, your understanding of the teachings will expand as well. That's why a lot of what I teach is a bit bigger than it was 2 or 3 years ago. Because as I expanded my understanding of myself and all that is around me, which is an ever expanding journey of a dance of being, my ability to articulate and share and even fathom or understand some of these spaces opened up. All right. So when you're allowing yourself to come from this space, this understanding of the knowledge is energy, the knowledge is power, right? And having that with you, but not coming from a space where the mind has to or wants to look everything up. Because what happens is you lose presence. And presence is more powerful because this is so beautiful. I'm falling in love again with the whole thing. Because when you trust yourself, all of those answers, all those teachings, everything you fed your being, everything you put in is going to flow right out as it needs to, when it needs to. When you trust yourself and you're holding presence, it's all going to be right there. It all is right there. Many of you already know a lot of the things I'm teaching you, or you've seen it or felt it or perceived it in some way. And this is more of a confirmation. This is more of a, you're not crazy, it's real kind of thing, right? So just keep that in mind. The technologies, they will come in as they need to. If your inner knowing is like, I need to bring them in, absolutely. But I would, and I have done that, and I told you that, but I have only brought the diamonds in maybe 2 times or so, and that's it. And I've done thousands of sessions. The bar of light would be my exception to the rule in some ways, but I love that in group settings. And I mentioned that before because I'm able to work with a very big group of people very efficiently and yet very, very much individualized, if you will, but all at the same time, which is really, really beautiful. So I do bring that in with the grid once a month, but I don't think I've ever brought it into a session. So with a one-on-one session, now, was it brought in by the team? Probably. Do I need to know? No. Really trusting those you work with is another really big space. We say trust yourself, but you also would benefit greatly by trusting that you are surrounded by love. And you are surrounded by light. If we knew how surrounded by love we were, it would blow our minds. We have a decent little inkling, right? And for some, that's expanded over the years, but it's even more. I had this understanding, I saw this vision prior to this class. I've been having it a lot, and I tried to share it before, and I think I gave you pieces and parts of it, but the space that people talk about when they have near-death experiences, all right? And we even have some in our group that have had this space in one way or another that I know of because I've worked with them privately. But the space that a lot of people, if not almost like across the board, experience in near-death experiences, that space has always got beings that are very loving, beings that are like right there immediately. There's never this space of I was alone and I was disorientated. Now, I have heard near-death experiences where there have been denser viewpoints, but my humble opinion is that person was experiencing from a space of themselves in which they had a lot of embedded fear that was asking them to release it. And so they were bringing that space up for them to see it. But I'm sure there's a lot of other opinions out there. I can only speak from my own. I teach from my own knowing and my own understandings. But these beings of light that we work with, whether you call them angels, or whether you say it's Jesus, or whether you say it's any of the other various spiritual spaces that happen to be tied into human life, okay? For one moment, imagine the understanding that there's other lives besides humans. Now, how many others? For me, I'm guessing innumerable. My thought process is that you have yours. Innumerable amount of other types of lives and beings and soul experiences and planets and lifetimes and universes and all of this. So now if they all have their own understanding of who's on the other side, working with us, walking with us, assisting us, can you imagine how vast this is? And can you imagine the amount of love that's available? So my understanding is that when we hold an Acasma Quantum Energy session and we're working with these higher dimensional beings of light and higher technologies in a higher vibrational space of connection, it is much like, but not exactly, but much like the space of connection experienced by many when they have these near-death experiences and they are surrounded by loving beings of light. But people are not having to knock upon the door of death to experience this love. And I have never seen any, and I've seen a lot of them, but I'm not like a junkie on them. Maybe I've seen 20 or so, I don't know. I've seen a lot of these videos, over my lifetime. Stories of people who have had these supernatural experiences, right? Whether it's a loved one that they were by in the bed when the, loved one began to transition, and then they saw, a man in white and the loved one came back, or, there's all these different things, right? But no matter what one I think of, there's this connective understanding of truly being surrounded by love and being surrounded by that light, that love. A big part of the illusion of being human is being separated. And there's this massive fear placed on death. And I do not discount the death of the physical, because that is something that everyone connected to the individual who transitions out of their human format has to then grieve the death of that relationship in that form. But I always like to say it that way because the relationship has left form. It has not left period. And that's a really big understanding we don't give a lot of attention to in the teachings in the human. But many of you are mediums, or you have the gifts opening up, and I'm right. You have conversations with your loved ones. You see the loved ones of your clients, and they are in connection with us still. They're just in a different format. But when we're working in an Acasma session with a client, we're processing and functioning and witnessing and facilitating everything in a similar space of connection as to what I believe people call heaven, or call near-death experiential space, or whatever, where the loved ones are around, or the angels or the guides or the guardians are around. And remember that every single interpretation is coming from the information of the interpretation point. That's very important. It's a very important understanding. So you have a belief structure. I have a belief structure. You witness a space of life. I witness the same space of life. Yet, because we may have different belief structures, we may witness that space with a different interpretation of the space. And so just allowing yourself the opportunity to allow the client's interpretation as you allow your interpretation and hold neutrality without judgment or attachment. That's a big one as well. To just allow it all to be whatever it is and coming from love. But I really think that's the space we're kind of working in, you know? Now there's a whole lot more here, but let me just check my notes really fast. Let's see, check technologies. Your job is the connection, higher vibrational space. Oh yes, also remember your job is to look at what's right and to look at their divinity. That's how you get to stay in that connection. You know, it's a very big difference between a lot of other energetic healing modalities that go in and they look for what's wrong. We've talked about it before, but we're anchoring this understanding. The more we allow space for it, the more it can solidify as a new go-to space of knowing for the human. This is how you get a new earth, Holy One. So when you look for what's right, that means you're coming in that you work with higher dimensional beings of light. You're holding that belief, right? That you work with higher dimensional beings of light. That's coming in looking for what's right. Because you're holding the belief structure, the presence even of that's who you're with. That's who's there. I never see myself up by myself with this client, you know. I just know I'm surrounded. I'm surrounded, you know, like in those movies when it said, "We have you surrounded," or whatever, you know. Like there's no way out. You can't get away. Well, what an awesome thing if you flip it and you know that that's love that's surrounding you, right? And light that's surrounding you. But they're there. And so when I'm in a connection with the client, I'm present with the client and I know that these beings are here. And I know that they're picking up the slack if it needs to be picked up. If there's anything I'm not seeing because I might have my presence on another space, it's all unfolding the way it needs to unfold. There's never a missing piece. There's never anything out of alignment. It's all in the highest, most optimal flow of love. And you can trust that. You can trust that 100% across the board in every single session. All right? That's how Acasma consciousness works. That's how Acasma consciousness flows. But you're looking for what is right. So you have your perception of who's with you. And it's not a perception of who's with me as in they are doing it outside of me in the sense that you're asking anybody for anything. You're part of a team. You need to show up and you need to support your space of it. All right, because that other concept is not a concept that will get us in an alignment of the next space of us. The concept of seeking something outside of us to heal and cure and clear and do all those things for us is an old concept we've lived for a very, very, very long time. If we do that, we're not going to change. Therefore, everything you experience in your healing sessions and in your life around you is going to be what it's always been. So if you want a different flow, you have to come from a different space. And that means you're part of the team. That means you're part of the team. So allowing yourself to understand the technologies, we're only just beginning to get clarity on these technologies. There are so many more. The helmet came in last week. If you haven't seen the notes, please go check the notes. They are now available in a PDF that will be updated weekly in your student portal. It's listed right there at the top. You tap it, it'll open. They're beautiful. I know I made them and I'm not trying to be conceited, but I love them because I could use art and how nice to convey what I was seeing visually with art. And I'm not an artist to draw and paint, but I can use the Canva system to help me. So those notes are in there and hear that newer technology showing up, right? The helmet, it was like a light helmet. It just looked like it went right over both hemispheres of the brain and it was golden light. And I felt it before I saw it, just to convey how I registered so that anyone who's learning and wants to think about the way they're processing, I felt it first. So I didn't just see, oh, look, there's a golden helmet of light. I felt this sensation of energy on my head. I felt pressure. I felt almost as if there was some pulling going on the actual brain, like what you imagine as the picture of the two lobes or whatever, you know. And then I leaned in, I just gave myself a moment with it. I was like, what's going on in my head? What's going on in the brain? And then I saw it, and I just saw it like, first I saw it like hands. So it was like two hands over the head, completely over everyone's heads. Everyone had two hands over their heads, and the hands were golden. And then the hands turned into a helmet. I saw them just kind of morph, if you will. And I was like, oh. But I understand this as we are so awesome. We are. And the system is awesome. It really is. This whole how you figure out who you are and wake up and be it, it's awesome. Because for me to process what was being done, I presented an outlay that my brain and my body could process the energy of the information. I didn't go straight to the helmet. I saw the brain first. I felt the movement first. Then I saw the hands. Then I saw the hands in gold. Then I saw the golden hands form into a helmet. That's a visual even for me of how we process the information. Do you see that? Each increment of what I was experiencing was another increment of the energy settling in. Because when you get to the helmet, you're at a very high vibrational space of understanding. When you start off with the sensation of something's going on the head, you're entering into the vibration. And my legs are lighting up with energy as I'm speaking, because we're anchoring it. All right, now. So keep that in mind as well when you witness. There's no one way to witness. There's no way that this has to always unfold for every single person, because the registration of the energies going through the filter of the belief structure of the being. Your belief structure, remember we talked about that. You could have two people witness the same exact space and interpret it differently. The core of the space can be the same, but it's the registration is going to come in. I had one of you write me and you said you saw me turn into an owl, and then you saw me turn into something else in the session, and you were wondering if you were really seeing this, and am I shape shifting? Am I all these other things? My understanding is that students' interpretation, the way they were processing the energy of the session in connection with them, their individual experience was seeing what it needed to see in order to make the process of the energy. For me, the owl would be wisdom. So they were bringing in higher knowing. They were bringing in wisdom of who they are and their connection of that remembrance. And then the other spaces, I think we're all in alignment with what that person's interpretation brought forth as greatest benefit for them to anchor the understandings, anchor the energy. But when we're doing these session spaces, the technologies you understand right now, like the helmet was not in the book. It's not in the PDF. It's not in the book. So I'm thinking you're all following me. There's probably a really good chance that there's a lot more. That we've just begun this grand expansion journey of ourselves into being higher dimensional beings of light in human form that work with higher dimensional technologies. It's like being in the class and they're just starting to bring in the different tools and teach us. Literally, that's what's happening. And we're learning as we're being it, which is phenomenal. This is big. This is beautiful. This is powerful work you're doing. All right. I never got in my head. I almost felt like in 2020, when I decided to step out in this, I almost felt like there's this underlying space of me that kept saying, in a good way, not in a pressure way. Okay. I need you to hear that. A space of me kept saying, you don't have time to be in your head. You're wasting time if you go to your head, Andrea. We need you in your heart. We need you to show up. We need you to be present. We need you to trust yourself, and we need you to allow the space. And every single space got bigger and bigger and more beautiful and more beautiful. But I never was like trying to figure it out or pick it apart, because I knew if I did, I was stopping myself in that particular space of it. And I was ready for all of it. I don't want to stop in one space. I want to keep on moving. I want to keep on being. And the minute you stop and you try to pick it apart, you've chosen that vibrational space where there's nothing wrong with it. And anybody can do that wants to do that. But when you stop in that one particular space and you pick it apart, now you're going to be in that space until you decide you're ready and you begin to flow again. You begin to allow again. You get out of the head and back into the heart. And there's nothing wrong with asking questions because they can bring more depth. Just don't get stuck in them. That's my only thing, right? I walk and talk, if that conveys well. I never say I can't write a course because I don't understand enough. I never say I can't write the book because there's more information coming. I never say, I better take a break from sessions because things are opening up. Just keep doing sessions and things will keep opening up. Write your book and the next one will come when that book's ready. Write the courses, teach the classes, hold the sessions, be present. Keep moving, keep flowing, keep being the energetic space of the ever expanding you. So all knowledge that you're gaining in this space is energy that you are then anchoring. I'm attuning you. You're attuning you. When we're in these spaces, you're working with your higher selves, you're working with your wholeness, you're working with your sovereignty, you're working with your divinity. We work with these beings that we have human labels for them. People say, who are they? Who are they? Who are they? But our human labels are not adequate. And so I have done my best to not label them. I have, feelings. I have inner knowings, if you will. And I get a lot of massive confirmations for my own personal space, if you will. But I don't write my books from it. I don't teach my courses from it. I don't label the energy work in a specific title of, well, we're this kind of healing, from this star system or from these beings or whatever. Because humans have a really good way of dividing things up with labels and roles. And we're healing that because if you notice with Acasma, we don't really have any labels or roles really, right? We don't ask you to prefer one thing over another, except love, basically, to trust yourself, to allow yourself. So I think it's coming, I'll be honest, more specifics. I think it's coming. But I just keep trusting and leaning in and showing up. And I say what I feel I need to say every single time I feel I need to say something, right? So, but I feel like I needed to say that because there is a lot being done with us, not in the sense to us. It's kind of a for us, but it doesn't supersede our self choice and our self-directive. We are the way in which this happens. It cannot go down without us. It cannot unfold without us. It's not a savior thing where you're just going to all of a sudden, be saved and placed in another space. It's this, we are the space. And as we shift the energies of our own beings, we are shifting the energies of the space we are, right? But we are very, very assisted. And never lose sight of that. It's a balancing act I have to do because I knew in the very beginning that a lot of this work would be helping people find their sovereignty and their power. I knew it. I knew I would be asked, I was being asked to help people move into a space of themselves where they dropped all of these asking a god or something outside of them to do everything for them. And they started owning their own energy and owning their own lives and living from their truth. But I had to balance it because there still is spaces of divinity that are in other spaces of consciousness that are working with us. So I don't want to shut the door down and say, you're it and you're all there is. But in essence, you truly are, because you're in every other space as well, because it's all one thing having this massive, expansive space of itself. But for the mind and for the concept of the human and the way that it experiences its life, you're not alone. And at the same time, you're extremely powerful. So I have to try to balance that. And that's what we do with Acasma, is we balance this dance of you remembering your sovereignty and leaning in and trusting yourself and allowing, and then also balancing the understanding and the knowing that you're surrounded by love and powerful beings of light, and you're never in this alone. So there's you see that takes, for me, it's presence. Yeah, Nene, I can feel my being, and you can yours. And then I sense what's around me, the field, the energy around me, and I can pick up and sense into the beings as well, the light beings, and also this whole understanding of what is beyond. And that's a whole nother hours and hours of class, really. Does anyone have a question? Does anyone have a question? Let me see what's in this chat while people are. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Simcha. Hope I pronounced the name correctly. Beautiful, Paula. Divine surrender. Love it. All right. No questions? I mean, it wasn't watching the screens, but I figured you'd interrupt me if you had one. Somebody would pop in. All right. So the biggest thing, well, Daniel, you have a hand up. Is that a high five or a question?
I just wanted to make a quick comment. Can I do that?
Yes.
I was in a tremendous amount of neck pain today. I don't know what happened, but it was like almost unbearable. And literally like 10 minutes before the session, I almost felt like these hands went onto my neck and started like adjusting my neck. I started feeling so much better. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is like insane. It was so powerful. I was like almost like a chiropractor was adjusting me, but there was nobody there. So I just wanted to share that. I feel a lot better now. So.
Oh my goodness. I wish I would have added your spotlight sooner. Daniel, thank you for sharing that. That's extremely powerful. So you actually could feel like the hands were touching the neck.
Yeah, it almost felt like a very strong energy. And it was like almost like something was like touching the bones, like in my neck, and like adjusting it. And it was extremely powerful. I mean, not like a little bit powerful, really. It was like literally 10 minutes before the session. And like, I don't know what it was. I mean, I wasn't getting any healing or anything, or I wasn't doing anything else aside from joining this class today. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Holy One. Thank you for sharing that. So I want to expand on this just a little bit, and anybody who needs to go, you go and do your schedules as you need to. We'll have a video available for everyone, but I'm going to expand on this just a little bit, because when Daniel brought this in, this neck thing, many of you have had spaces with me, one-on-one sessions, and I've mentioned to you neck. I'll call it a grip on the back of the neck, a pressure on the back of the neck being removed. And as I'm talking, something's coming out of the lower, the abdomen, left side, solar plexus, something coming out, right? Just dissolving. There's something with the human and the back of the neck. I've seen everything from, I'll be really just put it out there to you. I've seen everything from some type of implant being removed from people, from their neck. Usually it's right below where the skull hits, like right below the skull on the outside of the spine. Right side is more common, but I have seen it on the left. I will feel it as a pressure for the client, a grip. And it's important you know this, because you very may well come in contact, if you haven't already, in a session. I think there's some people, there's definitely an implant of some type being removed. I've seen it in different understandings. I'm not saying that's what Daniel's was. I've also seen, he was talking about the bones, almost like an energetic chiropractic adjustment. So it's like you're in an energy session, an Acasma Quantum Energy session, or a class space, but the beings of light present, the energy is present. This is all happening in connection with that higher vibrational space of connection, a higher dimensional space of connection. And even the adjustment to the neck, I think Daniel's, and I won't speak for Daniel, he can absolutely reply if he feels to, but I think Daniel's was, he's moving a lot of energy and he's opening up to these higher spaces of himself, right? So he's processing it and anchoring it into his human format. And I think he needed an adjustment. Like literally his neck pain was because you flow an immense amount of energy up your spine, through your crown and out your field. And so if that was at all off, he would have a type of, pain there. And so I'm feeling like they just adjusted him. And who adjusted him, in my knowing, right? And again, I'm just speaking, you guys probably have these, well, who she think adjusted him, My first gut instinct is going to be either a guide he works with, like a main guide, guardian type figure, or it very well could be a higher version of himself. So him, what we would see as in the future. He could, I think you're right, Ale. I think always being open to new energies. Beautiful. Thank you, Daniel. He could have a spiritual connection point as well in his own interpretation, like Jesus, or a space, a spiritual connection with an angel or something like that. That's common for a lot of people to believe that that's the being that's working with them. I really think all of these beings, whether they're higher selves, depicted gods, or whatever they are, angels, guides, guardians, ancestors, past loved ones, I don't think they care to have their name noted. I don't think they do. I think they just want to help. And I think the human is more into trying to figure out who's doing what and how they're doing it, where they just know the optimal thing is to have it done and to assist. So I think Daniel is moving a ton of energy, and that adjustment to the neck was to help him process this class. I think he was preparing himself to be in the space of this information. And as he was preparing, the energy was trying to move and it couldn't move through that one spot. And so his team just came in and helped him out there. So I've people have called it actual energetic adjustments. They say it feels like a chiropractor, but it's their energy, so they can feel it in the body as well in the Acasma sessions. We really do work with these beings. They put their hands on our clients, always from love, never in any way that is outside of that. If you didn't see the YouTube video I posted recently with Deborah, beautiful being who is with us in this class as well. And Deborah had a security camera going, normally just going while she was having her session. It recorded the living room. And you can see these orbs of light going through, and you'll see Deborah put her hands behind her head and kind of go like this. She said she felt hands on her neck. And it kind of, for a moment, she was like, what's touching me, And then she, thought back later. And then my notes to her were how they were adjusting her neck and they were working with her head and all of this. And so then she remembered that, and she remembered she had the camera going. So the footage is in the video. So that's quite cool to have with a client feedback as footage from their session. And she's on another coast. So this whole concept where people say, how can you know? How can you register this? How can you read this? And you're not together. You're not in the same room, right? I'm sure people have asked you, how do you do your work if you're not in the same room as me, right? We have more and more proof, right, of that we are so beyond this. This physical is a format of learning expansiveness. That's what this is. It's a format we utilize to learn and expand. But we do everything and can do everything in the spaces of our consciousness. And there's so many things out there now. There's videos on Gaia has a lot of documentaries where children are blindfolded and they read books, and they're not looking with their physical eyes, and they're reading the complete book. And other things, you'll see TikTok videos, mothers that do this with their kids and put the blindfolds on them, and they hold up cards that are different colors, and the kid's blindfolded and gets every one of the colors right, and they're looking with their inner eye. So when I can say to somebody, and I'm still fine-tuning my gifts, my trust of myself as well, but I'll say to a client, and some of you might have been the client, like I saw an owl, and Kirsten's like, oh my gosh, I was drawing an owl that morning. Or I'll say a certain crystal, and they'll say, I was holding that crystal. Or, I'll say, you should drink lavender tea and maybe work with lavender oil. And they'll say, oh my God, I used lavender oil before the session, but so there's these spaces of confirmation that we get that are very validating to the client to trust themselves. I think that's one of the biggest reasons for us to trust us, for us to trust the process, what's happening, what's available, what we're capable of, because we really are opening the door for everyone, for all of humanity. We are, and many others like us, in many other different types of modalities and teachings. We're glorious the way we're all expanding. All right. You found your way to this one. This is the way we do it. And we open the door so that everyone can remember who they are. And this is part of who we are. Isn't that cool? Isn't that so cool? And we aren't alone, and we aren't divided. And, we don't need to see each other as different or wrong or right. We can see each other as love, and we can see each other as beautiful beings on an expansive journey of remembrance. So I do that. And look, I surround myself with all kinds of wonderful people like you. So I'm so grateful for that. All right. I wanted to talk about why we see past lives, but I'll just give you a teaser and we'll do another class on that. But a lot of times in an Acasma Quantum Energy session, a lot of the time you will pick up on a knowing, and it'll either be like you'll just see a quick vision, or you'll have like a sense, like a remembrance or something, like you just know. There's so many. I don't study all the clair senses and how to speak about them, from an educational standpoint. I just can tell you what I understand from holding an Acasma session, whether you are working with sacred senses that are on, or whether you're coming into the space of them opening or wanting them to open. But when you're doing an Acasma Quantum Energy session, you're in that higher vibrational space of connection. Your client, if there's any energetic line of their signature, of their flow, that means every space of them, remember they're eternal. If there's any space of that line that is coming into a healing space or a shifting space, or even what we would see as almost like dissolving, as in it would then no longer be that state of itself, but it would expand into the next state of love for itself as well. Say there's a past life trauma. Say I have a client, I go into the session, I see a woman running through a field, grass up to her knees. She's in a long dress, apron around her waist. I legitimately have seen this, and actually more than once, because it's pretty common actually. So I'm just seeing this and I'm just making note of it. And then I will convey it to them with love. You never want to come in and, reiterate some trauma thing without doing it in a loving manner of, this was healed. That's a very important part of the sentence to include. How do I know it was healed? Because if I see it, this is the key. If you see it in an Acasma session, it is a line of energy that has untangled through the higher dimensional space of connection you are being. So in that connective point, when you are making connection with that client, that line, because of the alignment you're holding and the space they're in right now, in connection with that session, that line, and maybe multiple lines, you might see more than one, that line is untangling, because the energy, when it is stuck, is like dense tangles, like when you try to comb someone's hair. I have 2 daughters. You try to comb your own hair and you have tangles. All right. When we do an Acasma Quantum Energy session and you get into that soul space reconnection, and it doesn't even have to be in that specific part of the session, but that is a really good gauge. If you're not used to reading the energies yet, and you're holding a session for yourself or someone else, and you really want to be present with that space, when you do the soul reconnection by just intending soul reconnection, and you're just allowing the space, just being present with the energy, just being present, trusting, imagining the teams, yourself, the client, that's a space I see a lot in with past lives. We call them past lives, but I'm telling you, they're actually playing out right now. And humans have this linear time thing, so they have the construct to work off of to have the lives we have, right? But it's really here now. So when you work with someone and they heal a past space, they're healing a now space. And it's actually then reflecting in the space of focus. That's what I call the line they're living in from the person you connected with. So the client reaches out to you. That's their point of focus space, because they have other now spaces. So I used to say now space, but then I realized that's not going to work as we move forward. We need these new words, right? Meredith and I joke a lot, the Majestic Lioness. We joke a lot because we say we need a new dictionary. You know, they have the Webster's dictionary. We need the Acasma dictionary with new words and new terms, new phrases that can work with us, you know? So, and fit this expansive space of ourselves. But that happens. And so I will teach more on that as well, possibly this class on Friday, but I'm not going to say it's a definite. I might need to do another space. I'm going to be present with Friday as well. But if you have any questions, you can email me, and I could always make an additional video if we need to. But you're actually, by just being the connection, offering the space for any energetic lines of your client that are ready to detangle and to shift into the next space of themselves, because there's no way your client ascends without these types of things happening. Their energy is ascending. You know, it's not the body's ascending and hoping the energy shows up to the party. The only way it happens is the whole being is experiencing these healing spaces and releasing them. Does it mean they have to go back to that space and get all up in it and learn what it was and why it was? No. Can they? Absolutely. We don't tell people what they can and cannot do, but we tell them that they don't have to do it. It's optional. Yes. All right. I think I've given enough here today, and maybe more than it's a lot of information, but I feel like everyone is really receptive, and I'm appreciative of your receptivity and your open hearts and your presence. And you are the forefront. You are the wave of the ascension. You know, you really are. I can't say thank you enough, but you are anchoring it by the work you do in your own life. You solidify the alignments for you to run them. And you're like a power plant, you know, running the energies of the higher vibrational understandings. By being your life, you're running the energy. Ooh. All right. Sound effects and all. All right. Thank you all for being here. I love you unendingly. The video will be available in the portal. Unending blessings upon you, holy divine ones. Unending.
We love you.
Thank you. I love you too. Bye-bye.